Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the remains of a missing Williamsburg woman are found in Tennessee by children. And it seems like a tradition for Congress to debate spending up to the last minute, but will they meet the latest deadline to keep the government funded?
And we're not done with the rain yet this evening. The latest on when we finally see dry and cold weather return coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts right now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Scattered showers continue across the region this evening, and some of those could still be heavy at times. A First Alert Weather Day continues. Meteorologist Evan Hatter has the very latest. Evan.
That's right, Steve. For the most part, we've been getting by okay with this particular rainfall so far, but we've still got plenty to go as we head through the evening and eventually for much of the overnight as well. Several locations throughout the region still soggy. You can see the rain reflecting the distant lights there from the tarmac at London Corbin Airport. 53, it's 52 Hazard and in Pikeville. A wet parking lot here and a wet city of Pikeville from the Pikeville Medical Center camera there in the Big Sandy. And there's the view from Buffalo Mountain here in Perry County. Rather dreary look at things as the sun sets into the low 50s for many of us, but some mid 50s also sneaking in. Our break in the Kentucky River Valley is coming to an end because we've got more rain pushing on in, including to places that have already seen nearly an inch, according to the Mesonet station there near Whitley City, about, let's say 3 miles north of there. They've gotten about an inch of rain. Our next highest total in our region has been about 3/4 of an inch out in Boonville, so we are continuing to see some at least moderate rainfall push on through. We're not done. You see, moving in from the south and west through the evening, more showers in place. Details on when we could see a return, though, to some drier weather, and it's not too far away in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Well, it's not the outcome they wanted, but a Southern Kentucky family says a discovery in Tennessee is giving them some peace. Remains of a Whitley County woman missing almost 5 years were found Sunday in Tennessee. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on the bizarre case that's had a lot of unusual twists and turns from when it began in February of 2018.
The discovery of Laura Anderson's remains 149 miles away in Cleveland, Tennessee solves part of a missing person mystery.
Find out why, who all was involved, how did she get transported, who transported her. I mean, she's somewhere or another, she's got killed, murdered, and left there for 5 years.
It began in February 2018 when Anderson got out of her mother's car and took off. Her family says that they did not see her alive again. Her remains were discovered Sunday when authorities in Tennessee say some kids stumbled across a skull, which led to them finding more remains.
I want to thank them very much for calling it in and them finding what they found, and it has brought her home now.
The missing person case took a bizarre and unprecedented turn 3 years ago when Joseph Bauer made a jailhouse confession that he played a role in hiding her remains. He was sentenced to 10 years on that crime. Well, this case is far from over. Police say it still remains an active and open investigation. The Commonwealth's attorney says there are other persons of interest that he says he cannot identify at this time. Her family says they can have a funeral and a proper burial, but justice has not been fully served.
We want to find out who all was involved. I mean, we're not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Till my last breath, I won't stop.
Some questions answered, others still out there.
Every time we see a body on TV or even hear of a body, we all just tense up like, oh my God. You know, now it's finally here, and she can be put to rest with the rest of her family.
In Whitley County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Anderson's family says they have learned that Bauer was released after only serving 2 years of that 10-year term. We have a call into state corrections officials, but online it says that Bauer was granted mandatory re-entry supervision that began in July and ended today. In national news, adjustments might be on the way to the U.S. citizenship exam. The Biden administration signed an executive order calling for changes to the English and civics sections of the exam. The reading and writing sections will remain the same. A trial of this updated test will be performed in 2023 with more than 1,000 volunteers already enrolled for the citizenship class. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services officials say more than 1 million people became U.S. citizens during the 2022 fiscal year. Food inflation remains on an upward trend, even outpacing overall inflation. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports for the 12-month period that ended in November, the cost of food became 10.6% more expensive. Officials say numerous factors are to blame, including supply chain issues, crop-damaging diseases, and extreme weather. Washington is marking a more recent annual holiday tradition, the last-minute debate over government funding. House and Senate leaders say they've made progress, but the clock is ticking toward a midnight deadline on Friday. CBS's Nicole D'Antonio reports.
It's the most wonderful time of the year for lawmakers to debate funding the government.
This is jamming through a bill at the 11th hour.
We're talking about keeping the lights on.
Late Tuesday, lawmakers announced a framework to negotiate final deals on an expected $1.65 trillion spending bill, with Democrats agreeing to Republican defense dollars.
I'm glad that our Democratic colleagues finally accepted reality and conceded to the Republican position that we need to prioritize our national security.
But Democrats are still pushing to fund their domestic priorities, too.
We fought so hard for the PACT Act. We have to fund it. We fought so hard for the CHIPS and Science Act. We have to fund it.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says it's either a full-year bill or a short-term stopgap by December 22nd.
That's the deadline, and those are the two options.
President Biden is pushing lawmakers to reach an agreement on a spending package that addresses everything from fallout from COVID-19 to additional money for Ukraine. The House is expected to pass a continuing resolution giving lawmakers one more week to iron out that larger package. But House Republicans wanted to wait until they have the majority in the new session.
Let's let the American people have the say. Let's do our spending bill in the next quarter.
That would give the GOP more leverage on spending. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Washington.
Senate Republicans say they expect to be heading home for the holiday recess on December 23rd. The chairman of the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th U.S. Capitol attack announced the committee will hold its final public meeting on Monday, and the panel's full report will be released to the public on December 21st. Committee members have promised to have the report released before the end of the year because Republicans are expected to dissolve the committee when they take over the chamber in the next Congress. The U.S. is preparing to send a key missile defense system to Ukraine. The country's capital city, Kyiv, was hit by another barrage of Russian missile strikes Wednesday using Iranian drones. CBS's Skylar Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
CBS News has learned that the Pentagon is poised to provide at least one Patriot missile battery to Ukraine.
We recognize that with the air threat that Russia poses to Ukraine, that air defense continues to be a priority topic of discussion.
The Advanced Long-Range Air Defense System is highly effective at intercepting ballistic and cruise missiles like those that have destroyed key infrastructure across the country.
We'll continue to look at ways that we can best support Ukraine to protect their population.
Just this morning, Russian forces launched a drone strike in the capital city of Kyiv, causing damage to at least 5 buildings. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says all 13 Iranian-made drones were shot down and no lives were lost, thanks to the nation's air defense system and sirens. Ukraine has been pleading with the U.S. for more assistance to help the nation defend itself from Russian rockets. In the southern city of Kherson, which was liberated from Russia last month, the Russian military attacked this regional administration building on the central square. The U.S. believes Iran is helping Russia in its efforts. It's expected to take up to 8 weeks of training in Europe for the Ukrainians to begin operating the Patriot missile system, but a full 10 months to reach full operating capability. White House approval could come as soon as this week. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
The Kremlin says the missile defense system would be a legitimate target for Russian strikes. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, knocking out some last-minute online shopping. Consumer experts warn you need to be aware of scammers on the prowl. Tips to keep your money safe this holiday season.
Plus, rain looks to last through early tomorrow before colder air heads our way. The breakdown after this.